Good morning. Welcome back to the Kelowna Community Theatre on another beautiful day in this city. It's a municipal day at the MISA BC Fall Conference. We have an exciting lineup of programming for you, including this morning's keynote session, followed by a refreshment break, and then we'll be back in here for our municipal showcase, our Been There, Done That panel, and then we'll continue in the afternoon back at the hotel with some birds of a feather and peer sharing. So lots of great storytelling and story sharing happening today. Who made it to the yoga this morning? Sentinel 1, a little stretch? Yes? Thank you. And you'll be in, good stead because there's a lot of sitting around today. So get your stretches when you can. And thanks to Opus Consulting for a delicious breakfast. Round of applause for all of our sponsors once again for making this happen. So yesterday, there was a lot of talk about AI, generative predictive text, and I told you that I asked ChatGPT if it could tell a joke at a conference, and it said, no, I can't do humor. So I went back and asked again yesterday, and so yeah, it's almost there, but you can tell it also is hallucinating. And here's what it replied with. Okay, here's a light technology-related joke that you can use at a conference for government information systems specialists and technology vendors. Why did the computer catch a cold at the government IT conference? Because it had too many windows open and couldn't find the Control-Alt-Delete. Okay, regenerate. Certainly, here's a lighthearted technology-related joke you can use at a conference. Why did the computer catch a cold at the government IT conference? Because it had too many bytes and couldn't virus the situation. So yeah, it's got some work to do, that ChatGPT. But that one reminded me of, did you hear about the new band called 1023 Bytes? No? They haven't had a gig yet. There you go. Legit. We have some, okay, we'll continue. TBC. I would like to introduce our friends from IT Blueprint, and this gentleman really doesn't need any introduction. He's even flashier than I am. Mike Gower, CEO and Technology Officer, to introduce this morning's session. Mike. Thank you.
I decided to not be so flashy. Okay, so one of the things that I figured, hey, it's an AI conference as well, right? So when I was thinking about introducing Jazz, same thing with Clayton, I was going, well, what does the AI think about who he is? So I know everyone can read, and I think this is one of the things that illustrates that AI isn't quite there yet. So I asked who Jazz was. And I wish I had my right place. There he is. So in this case here, he is a founder of a company called Synthicity. I was going, well, I don't think that's correct. So I think Jazz is a CIO from the city of Kelowna. You are correct. Jazz is the CIO. He's responsible for overseeing the IT systems, the operations, the initiatives, the dev and implementation of IT strategies. This is, again, it's making up some of those things because it is grabbing a lot of information from the internet. So it states that he's been from the city of Kelowna since 2013, which is not correct. I was talking to Jazz on this side, and I think he's been there with 4 years. Is Jazz a visionary? So Jazz is known for his innovative and technology-centered approach to solving problems, improving service delivery. Within the City of Kelowna, he's developed and implemented various programs and initiatives that leverage technology to enhance everyone's lives. Again, he did not receive this award. I asked AI, has he helped position Kelowna as a national leader and propel it forward to national recognition? So it does say that his leadership and contributions to the development and implementation of strategies within this city can help Kelowna gain recognition as a leader, and I would argue that he has been doing that. So, in summary, Jazz is results-oriented CIO with a remarkable passion for innovation and digital transformation. He has an extensive background spanning over 13 years in the industry. Jazz has consistently demonstrated a strong track record in designing and implementing scalable information technology roadmaps that drive organizational performance to new heights. As the CIO of the City of Kelowna, Jazz has propelled the city to the forefront of technology advancement. His visionary leadership has led to groundbreaking achievements, positioning Kelowna as a national leader and propelling it towards national recognition. Don't take AI's word for it, but I have no doubt that you'll be just as impressed as I am when you hear from him today. Please welcome to the stage, Jazz Pabla.
Perfect, thank you. I do have to confirm one thing. Is my boss here in the presentation today? Is she here? No Carla. Okay. Well, once again, my name is Jazz Pabla. I do work for the City of Kelowna. I'm also on the MISA board as well. Very thankful and excited to be here to present. I do want to start with the land acknowledgement. Kelowna is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Syilx and Okanagan people. Now, sometimes for us, it's kind of hard to understand, well, why does that matter, these land acknowledgements? Every day, your teams work on GIS systems or land systems. We're looking at archaeological maps. We're grabbing data from water, mountainside, whatever you want to talk about. Well, where did that land come from? Well, the indigenous people before we came stewarded that land and they did such a great job. It's really important to understand that when your IT teams are working on those systems, that where did that land come from? So later today, you're going to see sort of how we kind of engrave that into our culture. So now I'm not your traditional keynote speaker. I was asked to do this, and so I'm very thankful to be here, though. But I want to have a direct conversation with all of you. I am one of you. I am your peer. Things that you struggle, I still struggle with as well when I go back to my municipality. And so today we're going to have a conversation. Every year I come to MISA. Before I went to MISA Perry's, I had the pleasure of going again back to MISA Perry's in MISA, Ontario, and obviously here in MISA BC. I sometimes hear the same conversation over and over again. You know, the business doesn't really understand IT. I don't maybe understand the business. How did you get those budgets to do those things? I still got shadow IT. Now it's even harder with AI. And so at some point, we do have to change the conversation. And that's going to be our challenge today. I'm going to have a direct conversation with all of you. But next year, when we go to MISA in Whistler, how do we not have the same conversation over and over again? And there's a path that City of Kelowna took that might be a bit different than what you all think. And we know we get some of the credit and all this AI stuff, and it's wonderful. But it wasn't exactly you just get up one day, you focus on IT training, and you start. The path was a lot different. And I think you're going to be really surprised to see the path that we took. Where does that path start? It starts with the most important person in that journey, and that's you. Nothing else will actually matter if you're not happy as an individual. Now, we all want to be compassionate for other folks. We all want to respect everybody else. We all want to listen and understand what everybody's pain they're going through. But in order to do that, you have to respect yourself, you have to love yourself, and you really have to be empathetic towards yourself. And that was a journey that I went on, and I'm going to go over a little bit over that journey with you today. Nobody will care more about you than you. When you go to your organizations, they're going to tell you they care, and they probably do. Your managers will tell you they care about you, all true. But your needs, only you can take care of yourself properly. So how did I do that? So for me, the path forward for me was through self-awareness and reflection. Now, everybody does their own version of self-awareness. Some of you work out, mountain bike, run, hike. If you're in Kelowna here, lots of great walking paths. Whatever you have to do to sort of raise your self-awareness and have moments of reflection and calmness in your day, do it over and over again. Now, you look at that photo there, there's calmness, you see the reflection of the lake. About 4 or 5 years ago, I love camping, go out as much as I can, and I would just notice the lake at 5 o'clock in the morning. And if you notice it, it's completely still. You can actually see the reflection of the landscape around you. And so just think about that stillness as you as an individual. So I pick up a pebble, you toss it in the lake, you see the ripples go across. That pebble, that rock that you're throwing in, those are moments in your day. And the ripple is what caused those moments. Now, you need to understand what those moments are. So if you're in a meeting and someone says something and it doesn't make you feel right, you have to understand, why did it not make me feel right? You have to reflect on that moment and figure out, what do I got to do to move forward? Conversely, if you go to that same lake, so if you go to Okanagan Lake here at 2 in the afternoon in the summer, and you take that rock and you toss it, there's no ripples. With the boats and the wind causing all that wave, there's so much chaos in your day. You need to bring some calmness and stillness in your day, and you need to raise your self-awareness. Now, for me, several times a day I have to reset myself. We've all been there. We get that email, that Teams message, someone makes an off comment in a meeting, and you're wondering to yourself, well, why did they say that? And if you finish that meeting and it's half an hour, and then you walk in and you take that emotion to the next meeting, well, those individuals have no idea why you feel that way. So why would you burden them with how you feel? So for me, my form of self-awareness and reflection that works for me, and once again, everybody's different, is meditation. And I'm going to share a stat with you. This is my personal stat. So I use an app to track my meditation. It's a guided meditation. I've meditated 2,911 consecutive days in a row, with over 13,000 minutes of meditation. One of the stats that I don't have on here right now is I've meditated in that 2,900 days or so, around 4,100 sessions. I have bought in. There is no reason why I do it. I know I just have to do it. It's this process that I blindly trust. Find out what that is for you and start to move forward. So what did I learn when I started to do self-awareness exercises and self-reflection? So in 2016, I did a 360 review on myself, and I had my colleagues back then in the private sector do a review. And the feedback was not very good. Smart guy, super condescending. People will follow you, but you're just really rude and disrespectful. We know you're smart. You don't have to keep telling us over and over again. And back then, when I got that feedback, the first thing you normally do when you get that feedback, and I was a bit younger, is like, who said that comment? And then you try to find out, but that's not the purpose of the review. And so it was a real eye-opener for me that I, as an individual, needed to change. My definition of leadership was completely flawed. I thought it was about climbing that corporate ladder and going to the top. I thought it was about titles. I thought it was about money. And it's really not. But I didn't understand why I felt that way. And what I started to realize is I didn't really know what my why was. Now, there's lots of talks out there about finding your why, and I'm not going to do that for you today. But I knew that tech for tech's sake wasn't working. Providing a technical solution, doing it, just wasn't cutting it. I had changed a lot of jobs over my life. I think I've had 6 jobs in like the last 10 years, trying to find my lane, just always looking for that greener grass on the other side. But it wasn't working. But I did find my why. And I found my why in 2 major events in my life. First one was I was working for the city of Saskatoon, and in April 2018, it was on a Friday, there was a massive bus crash in Humboldt, Saskatchewan. A lot of kids had died, coaches, trainers, and whatnot. I think it was about 16, 17 people. And it happened on a Friday. Monday night, I was told I'm going to Humboldt with 3 other people. Tuesday, to help the city and to help the Broncos. And I thought, okay, here's a moment. I know my IT stuff. I can go there, I can help. And maybe I can start making a difference in this community that is just reeling in pain. So that's actually me there with the mayor in the middle, city manager, and a crew of us and a bunch of people from Humboldt. First day we got there, we're helping the city. It was really good. They were very thankful we were there. They actually gave us the keys and walked out around 1 o'clock because they were reeling in so much pain. Second day we drove in, the funerals had started. And you started to see hearses rip by with kids in them. You get this sick feeling to your stomachs like, wow, like this is not what I signed up for. In that moment, that same day, I went to the facility to help the Broncos out with whatever I could. And they said, hey, listen, we can't update our website. And I said, all right, IT guy, website, hey, this is going to be a breeze for someone like who I thought I was really good. So then I called the company, and if anybody that knows junior hockey, the websites are all managed centrally by one company for all junior hockey across Canada. So I called the company and I said, hey, listen, I'm so-and-so, and I need to update the website. And they said, good try. Because a lot of people had tried hacking into certain aspects of the Humboldt to take advantage of the situation. They said, there's a PIN number and a username and password. Provide it to me, and I can help you with whatever you want. So I go back to some staff at the Broncos, and I said, hey, I need that PIN and number. I can change this and no problem. So that's the problem. It was with the coach and the trainer who died in the bus crash. So I thought, oh, wow, like, what am I going to do now? So for about 20, 30 minutes, you try to solution, you try to think of different ways, and I started to realize maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, and a little bit of humility in my life is a good thing. Then I realized the power of relationships is very real. Before I moved to Saskatchewan, I'm actually born and raised in Kelowna, I did IT support for the Kelowna Rockets. And if you know, anybody here knows junior hockey, the Hamilton family is engraved in junior hockey across Canada. One of the brothers is Gavin Hamilton. And so I called him, and I said, hey, like, I have no idea what to do. Like, can you give me a path forward? He said, Jazz, give me 5 minutes and I'll call you back. Called back, gave me a number. Don't know who he called, doesn't matter, problem solved. Somebody non-technical helped me with a technical problem. So those relationships that you're making right now with people, you may not know it, but you may need it later. The second moment, it actually happened in the same year, was I was fortunate enough at the city of Saskatoon to be part of the Smart Cities Challenge that the federal government did in 2018. We went to Parliament, actually, and we almost won. We didn't win. Nobody in Western Canada won, but no one's going to talk about that. The challenge that we had presented forward was how do we use technology to reduce Indigenous youth incarceration rates. Now, just a quick stat, in Saskatchewan, incarceration rates are double the national average. For girls between the ages of 14 and 18, it's triple the national average. So there's a problem with youth being incarcerated in Saskatchewan, Indigenous youth in this case. And so we had to figure out a way, so how do we talk to these kids? How do we understand why they're being incarcerated? What are they doing? And we started to realize that we could use technology to give them information before they make a decision that they're going to regret. But grabbing that information out isn't like when you do your process mapping for your ERP system or when you're trying to figure out what app to sort of build. So one of the ways that we did it was we brought Play-Doh, and we took kids that were from the ages of 8 to 12 that were going from home to home, foster care to foster care. And we said, okay, talk about what you want. And based on that user design work, we tried to build a solution. Well, these kids took Play-Dohs, and they were making homes, and they were making family members. because they said, we just want a normal family. And think about that for a second. You're there as an IT professional trying to solve a problem, and these kids don't have a home to go to. You talk about process mappings. Look at that process map. On the left, if you've got kids, that's the everyday life of majority of your kids. They wake up, you make them breakfast, you drop them off at school, they get a packed lunch, you pick them up from school, whether your parents do or whoever, daycare picks them up, you come home, they get a meal, rinse and repeat. Made for success. In the brown is what the kids said that they were going through. And so what they were going through was I wake up in the morning and I start walking around and I look for a bite to eat. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know why I'm going where I'm going. But in those moments is when those bad decisions start to get made. And that's when we realized that we really needed to use technology in a more meaningful way. And within that experience, I started to find my why. Social issues are our issues. And so one of the things that the city of Kelowna did just to show sort of the art of the possible is we surveyed shelters in this community every day, twice a day, how many beds you have available and how many people can you intake. We took that, put it on a dashboard, and we shared it with the community. We shared it with frontline workers, so when you're talking to someone that's experiencing homelessness, your conversation's changing. Now that solution is very simple. And there's no AI behind it. I know I'm here, but there's no AI behind that. Very simple solution, but you start to find your why within your team. Where this is going towards is leadership that is the next generation of leadership. Now, for me, why did I get hired in this position? Now, this is why I was hoping Carla was here, because I was going to sing her praises. But last year, Carla had told me, the reason I hired you wasn't because of your technical abilities. There was someone on my team that was struggling with mental health problems. And it was just a low point in their life. And at this point, I wasn't the director of IT. And I took that person and I guided them through an HR process of getting them on short-term care, getting them the mental health help that they needed. And then I brought the team along to say that this individual is struggling and we're going to support that individual. And when that person came back, we welcomed that person back. The culture started to shift within the team as well. So the next generation of employees that are coming are going to want an experience where you care genuinely for them. So this is more than just IT leadership. Now, I also have the privilege of being the chair of the City of Kelowna's D&I committee, so around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, changing the culture corporately around that is a challenge in itself. Nothing to do with IT. But now IT is in a conversation where we're looked at a little bit different. And that's the conversation and the challenge that you all need to take back to your organizations as well, is how do I position myself differently than maybe what I was before? Now, there's a picture up there, and the reason this picture is important is the conversation for IT is changing in municipalities. Now, last week, it was the last week or the week before, a few of us got to present at UBCM on digital transformation. So our city manager kicked it off, talked about the city of the future. I talked about some IT stuff. Mike Palmer's talked about process and people and why that's important. He talked about MISA as well. We had Microsoft there, the CTO, talk about ethical AI, and land titles was there. I know Brian's here as well. And we really started to change the conversation at UBCM. And the conversations that I was having at UBCM about IT involves all of us to change the way we think about IT. Gone are the days where we can only focus on the infrastructure and the desktop and those types of items. Issues like affordable housings are our issues to solve. Municipal leaders are looking at their IT departments to digitize the experience, to change the experience. And we as organizations have to ready ourselves to move forward. It is not enough to just make your team better techs. We have to make better people. People that are empathetic, people that actually understand problems with their citizens that they're truly having, in order to actually solve those problems correctly. Now, the path that we took was very intentional. I'm going to talk about that intentional path. When I showed up, some of these things hadn't happened. You're really busy, you're doing your job, but people wanted to engage a little bit different. So what did we do? So we started to train. We started to do seminars. We started to do webinars. First one we did was mental health. Nothing will matter if you're not mentally healthy. Nothing will matter. You will completely stop dead in your tracks, and your team won't move forward. So that was number one. Number two, burnout. It was the middle of COVID. IT departments across Canada, whatever sector you're in, were feeling the pinch, partly because we were behind in our digital infrastructure to actually deliver what we needed to do when the country started to get shut down. And the brunt of that was felt on IT departments. So burnout was very real. And then we really shifted to understanding your bias. Why do I feel the way I feel when I hear certain things? Can I think a little bit different? And I really needed the team to do that because I knew the path that we were going on. So we did that, broke down some barriers, broke down your thinking process a little bit, and then we really shifted. First thing we did, an Indigenous awareness workshop. National, understand residential schools, 60 Scoop, understand who is Métis, who is Inuit, treaty lands. All those things matter when you're actually trying to solve these community problems for you, because that's how the community's thinking. If you've got kids, they're more knowledgeable now in Indigenous rights than we were ever growing up. So we need to better ourselves as well. Now, no matter what end of the political scale you're on, it's irrelevant, I don't really care. But we do have to respect each other, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your sexual orientation is. And so we brought in 2 days of career competency training. We really needed to understand, how do we create an environment that's safe for everybody? Now, statistically, we have a team of about 40 now. Back then, I think it was around 35. Statistically, someone on my team would be able to identify with the LGBTQ plus community. But I wasn't seeing it. About 10, 15 years ago, whoever the mayor was at that time didn't want to raise a pride flag. Those are the kind of things that kind of stuck to people. And we needed to realize that we had to bring somebody in to sort of set the playing field. And so we brought someone in. Some awkward conversations, but it started to work. Individuals who were identifying in this community were coming to me saying that I am part of that community. I'm not ready to share yet, but thank you for creating that space for me to be myself. If you want the best out of your people, they absolutely need to be themselves. And career competency training is very important. Then we brought in a local Indigenous trainer to really understand what the individuals in the Syilx and Okanagan people had gone through, and what does this land mean. But we didn't stop there. We went even further. We brought someone in to do trust and communication. Started to build a team a little bit different. Stress in the workplace. Busy is a mindset, but we needed to train on what that actually meant. Hardiness training. This is when AI and some of these other transformational changes started to happen as well here at the city. And that's why we did adaptability. The digital landscape was changing, but I needed the team to have those essential skills. They're not soft skills anymore, essential skills to be ready for that change. And then self-talk and mindset, convincing yourself that you're really good. You'd be shocked at how many people deal with imposter syndrome all the time. Be intentional. So I see some people taking photos, that's great. One of the things, if you reach out to me after, I'll send you an email with all this training, the trainers that did it, and all the costs. I've already got it all ready for you guys. Don't just pick and choose one or two of these things and think that your team's just going to change. Look at the entire experience and be intentional in your change. Let's talk about IT governance for a second. Now, it is very important to be agile. If you've got a solution and you see it's a sinking ship and you're like, well, I've already invested, just let it sink and move on. Too many times I've seen IT leaders have a solution, they realize it's not the right solution, and they refuse to move on. It's not just about agile development, it's about agile solution making, and sometimes you just have to move on. Now for us, one of the things that we went through is we had a chatbot at the very beginning of COVID. It was with a certain supplier who I won't mention. It wasn't working out. A couple months later, we just changed. Realized it wasn't working, dumped it, moved on. And you're going to see that in our showcase today. If we didn't make that switch, we wouldn't have the experience that we're having right now. Now, this one here, I added a few days ago. And I'm so glad I added it because last night I was having a conversation with Kerry from Nanaimo, and he was talking about this as well. Business relationship management. There is no municipal IT department if our business partners don't exist. There is no purpose for us. We are here to serve them, and we're here to serve our citizens through them as well. That's reality. If you don't like it, I mean, that's just it. We have to understand what their needs are, and we have to understand what their priorities are. Not our priorities. That's great, you want to upgrade your data center, and then you want to upgrade your network stack. They don't care. So working with them is really key. So what did we do? We don't do this anymore because we see the results and we've kind of shifted on. But what we did was we took the organization, we created portfolios for them. We took IT leaders that wanted to be personable or that wanted to have conversations, and we assigned them to those departments. And every 3 months or so, we would ask them, what is your priority going forward? And here's what the rest of the corporation is doing. That was it. It's not about making a wish list and doing whatever you can for them, but it's about communicating and getting to know people a little bit different. Now, one of the things I do every single day when I come to City Hall, when I'm not working from home, is I walk through the SLT area and I say good morning to everybody. And if anybody's got a problem, I take notes and we go back to the team. Don't be afraid to go out and step out and meet different people. One of my managers and I, we did tours of water, wastewater, the landfill, yards, where we make fertilizer, roadways, wherever there was outside workers, we did a tour. Took us 2 years to do, but now we really reconnected with those individuals. And now they know they can come to us for moving forward. So, in what ways does a path to IT leadership differ than what you actually imagined? Now, if you're going to notice, I haven't talked about tech training or anything, and I'll talk about that in a second. What happened next to us was quite remarkable, and some of us are still in shock. It started to work. I had a team of people that were hyper-engaged, low turnover, extremely low turnover, and the individuals were able to connect with the business, and I didn't need to be in every conversation. My managers didn't need to be in every conversation. We started to build relationships with vendors and partners, and we actually started to leave them alone with our business partners because we started to build that trust with them as well. Things started to accelerate. Here's some of the news clippings over the last few years that we've had the privilege of being in. Now, I use this as a recruiting tool. If you want to join the city of Kelowna, you can go home and say that this is what I do. Nobody wants to leave this. This is great. And then when we go out and we start to recruit, we ask them, do you want to be a part of something a little bit different? Now, I haven't talked about tech training. And the reason I haven't talked about tech training is you all don't need help with tech training. You know where you want to go. There's lots of training out there. For us, we started with a bunch of Azure training, trained the whole the whole IT department, and whatever training was needed after. But the team needed to know that somebody out there genuinely cared for them. It wasn't about tech training. It was about somebody that needed to know that they have my back when something's not right. Or if I'm struggling mentally, I can go to that person and they can help me out. That's when the solution started going. I didn't hire a lot of new people to make this happen. The chatbots and the things you're going to see in the showcase, primarily done by employees that have been here 10 plus years. There's lots of great knowledge, lots of great energies in your team right now, but you have to engage them a little bit differently. So when you do this type of training, and you do this type of engagement, you start to get creative. Ideas start to come a little bit different. You hire intentfully, you get diverse thinking. So let's talk about some of those items now. Now, imagine with me, you all have parks, you all communicate them, whether it's a placard when you walk up to something or you go on your website and there's an engage page and you give feedback on the park. And we've seen it before. So one of the team members thought, well, what happened if we had more of an immersive experience? What happened if you could use something like AR to really engage people differently and then give live feedback? Imagine going to a park, taking your phone and ripping it across. And I don't like that slide there, I'm going to give it 1 star. No, I really like that slide there or that skate park there, I'm going to give it 4 stars. And I'm going to leave my feedback. We're developing this with UBC Okanagan and the immersive technology team for hopefully a go live here in 2024, because we start to realize that people want a different experience when engaging. Now, it's really hard to use some of these new technologies. I know AR used by Pokemon, and that's what I thought it was only for. But when you see something like this, it really changes the experience. Now, one of the ones I get all the time is around the permitting solution that we have and what we're doing. I'm not going to go over into details on the chatbot because in our showcase, you're going to be able to see it there. But the next iteration of our permitting solution is starting to look like this. Now, there's a housing accelerator fund that CMHC got. We've applied for it. That's to take this a little bit further. For those that don't know, I'm going to go briefly over what this is. You put your address in. You want to build a certain type of building, carriage home, swimming pool, doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want. AI goes into the GIS system, understands your parcel, understands your zoning layer, understands the zoning bylaw, tells you what you can and can't build in real time. Next iteration is what you see here. You click apply, goes to the application process. Copilot. As you're filling it out, it's telling you if you're compliant or not compliant in real time. When you submit that application, almost a near perfect application. Now, the way we built this, though, is it doesn't matter what planning software you have. Bring your own. Doesn't matter how your zoning bylaws are designed. Work with the language models to teach it. The reason we built it that way is we're going to give this away to every municipality across Canada for free. At some point, somebody has to not make money on housing. Why can't it be this group right here? Every solution that we are going to build that's going to better the lives of citizens and the citizen experience, we're going to give away for free. We're going to create knowledge documents. We're going to help you onboard. We're going to align you with Microsoft partners, because this is all built on the Microsoft stack. We're going to align you with Microsoft partners that we've trusted, that we've worked, that have helped build this for us and helped build other things for us. And we're going to give you a path forward. If you can do it yourself, that's great. So we're going to start with BC first, and then we'll deal with the rest of Canada. So we'll be running all that through MISA BC as well. So I'm really excited about that. Now to wrap it up, there's one more I want to show. The power of relationships and the power of technology sort of coming together. I don't know if any of you know, most of you do, one of the worst wildfire years in Canadian history. Absolutely devastating. West Kelowna, we lost 3 homes. West Kelowna, where I'm originally from, horrible. So in that moment, we're in the Emergency Operations Center, the fire chief asked us, we want to do things a little bit different. Can IT be in the emergency center like a section, even though it's not really a section? So we went there, and my management team, most of them at home, I think one of them joined me in the EOC as well, we're all part of the experience as well. My boss wrote a business case right in the middle of the EOC, sent it over to the EOC directors to say, hey, we need to fly drones. We need to do something a little bit different. But flying drones on its own is a bit of a party trick, to be honest. People don't really understand their purpose. You have to have a reason for it. I know that Moose Jaw's here. They're probably going to do their drone presentation for their showcase, and it's really good. I've seen it before. For us, we wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to talk a little tech here, and I think I'm in the right spot to talk a little tech here. Deputy Fire Chief came to me, has a Venza maps on his iPad, took it and drew lines on the map. And he said, I don't know what's happening here, but these are behind people's homes and we want to get them home sooner. I said, okay, airdrop me the map. So he literally drove by, I took my phone, he took his iPad, airdropped me. I knew I had the exact spots where the lines were. We took 2 drone pilots, professional drone pilots. They brought their drones over, massive drones with thermal sensors, and we flew those between 8 o'clock to 2:30 in the morning. Those yellow dots you see represent hotspots over 90 degrees Celsius. Over. Most of them were in the 400 to 500 range. That's the dog park there. I didn't want to show any residential homes because I didn't have their approval, but majority of it was right behind their homes. So then we flew, we had the hotspots, put it back on a map. In the morning, airdropped it back to the deputy fire chief, who then airdropped it to every frontline firefighter. Those dots also represent within half a meter accuracy of where those hotspots were. So the firefighters had exact locations on where to go instead of going around, sweeping back and forth. Just pinpoint exactly where to go. Next day, we were asked to do the same sweep flight over again, just to make sure that it actually worked. 90% of the dots gone. A day and a half later, everybody goes back home. So there is use in technology like drones, like AR, like AI, if you've got your mind right and you're actually engaging the business to understand how they're going to work. Now, I say relationships in action there. One of the best moments in my career so far so my relationship, and everybody knows this with Microsoft, is very strong. I will continue to promote Microsoft. They've done great work. In the middle of the fire, I reached out to Microsoft. And I said, I don't really have any situational awareness. There's no fly zone in the area. You can't get drones out there. We have no idea what's going on. So I asked them very nicely, can you ask one of your 3 organizations that I know they work with? One of them's SpaceX, one of them's Planet, one of them's the Weather Network. Can you get them to move satellites over Kelowna for 1 week straight? So they did, the next day. That is real-life satellite footage of homes burnt in West Kelowna. They asked Planet for the next week straight, shifted satellites and gave us the best imagery they could. How important is this? When we were identifying properties that were burnt, something like 40 or 50 of them were identified incorrectly. So we took this image, we worked with their GIS team, they overlaid the parcels, and we were able to correctly identify homes that were burnt, not giving citizens wrong information. The power of relationships is so important. I can't stress enough, like MISA here doesn't function without our partners. But if you think you're going to do this AI journey or this digital transformation journey on your own, you're sadly mistaken. You need partners. There's a lot of them here. Get to know them. So, what will you do? Are we going to have the same conversation that we had this year, next year? Are you going to change the conversation? Because we want to help. If I give you these solutions from the city of Kelowna through MISA, and you have these solutions, is it sustainable? And it won't be sustainable because of your technology environment. It'll be only sustainable because the people are engaged and they understand and they keep moving forward. I can't stress enough that there are people in your organization who genuinely believe in you. That's why you're here. If they didn't believe in you, you wouldn't be here right now. The people that you walk around and you talk to all believe in you as well. What I need you all to do is start to believe in yourself. When you go back to your organizations next week, look at your team, try something a little bit different, look at yourself, understand what makes me tick, and actually start to make that change. The community needs you, your organization needs you, and more importantly, the team needs you to do better. Thank you. questions? Please.
We have roving mics for anyone who wants to challenge Jazz with a question. Jilly got that one up there?
Hey, thanks, Jazz. It's a pretty amazing presentation today. I'm just curious about the structure of your DEI committee and whether or not it was the committee itself that undertook all those tasks, or did it recommend to HR or some other corporate entity to bring forward all those workshops?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the D&I committee corporately started last year, building their strategy corporately. I was part of the strategy in the committee. What you saw there was done a year before that. And that's the reason I'm on the committee, because the City of Kelowna's IT team was leading by example corporately. Our staff were going out there saying that I've done this type of training. People started to see a difference within information services and IT, or however you want to call us. And so then it was asked, can you be a part of this experience, because we've sort of seen this journey. And now we're actually recommending to all other departments across the corporation to sort of follow the same path and get their team engaged. These types of committees and opportunities, Darren, are so important for IT departments to engage in. And we're not just here for IT anymore. We do need to start making a difference in other places. And if you want to get to know people, it isn't just through technology problems. Get to know them a little bit different, and this is a great way to get to know them. I'm not sure if that beep's telling me to stop talking or... I think there's one up here. It's Pamela here. Oh, no, we got people online, so we want to make sure they hear the question correctly.
We're making sure you get your workout. Thank you, Jazz. If this doesn't excite and engage people, I don't know what else will. I just want to air an observation that I've made in this last couple of days we've been here. My name is Pramila, for people we haven't met yet. I'm with Microsoft Canada. And there is a good observation that we have made about women in tech in the private organizations. The observation that I've made in the last couple of days here is not as equal distribution as we would like to see.
Yeah.
I want to know what is your personal commitment on the DEI side to increase that percentage. We practically counted yesterday as to how many women were in the room.
Yeah.
And I want to know what is MISA's role in that as well. How are you promoting, how are you improving that numbers, and how you personally are looking to bring a balance in your leadership team on that front?
Yeah. Our MISA board is quite balanced between men and women, so there's a really healthy balance there. At the City of Kelowna, our IT team, we've increased the number of women we have, I think, something's like 25% over the last 4 years, so we've been quite intentful on bringing women into the IT workforce as well. And I mean, we still have to do better, but we're starting to see that shift. One of the things we're working on, and Cheryl and I have talked about this last year, and we're working with School District 23 in this upcoming year. There's not enough young women in IT coming through the universities. That's one of the big problems. But we want to start even sooner. So one of the projects that we're doing, and I encourage everybody here to try something similar, is to work with School District 23 and the geography team to start with, to get young girls in school from grade 10 to grade 12, and pair them up with individuals like Cheryl and members of her team to say that there's a path forward to geography into GIS, and to bring some of those solutions into that world. You have to start with K-12. And so we're very engaged with our K-12 partners here as well, and they recognize that this is a problem. They're doing their level best as well. But we have to change. And so this is a great challenge for the IT leaders here who get to decide which staff members are coming to MISA next year or not, is look at your team. And if you have women in leadership positions, maybe they need to be here next year, and someone else can take a break. No more? Oh, no, we got a couple more.
Very inspiring, Jazz. Fantastic presentation. Trevor from iTrack here. You talked about partnerships, and I'm interested in, you know, how you look at that partnership piece at a lower level. And, you know, you talk a lot about collaboration and working together. How do we shift this from a buy from, sell to kind of relationship that's very transactional to a collaboration? You know, because I believe very much in the transformation that you're talking about, but how do we continue to get past that to a lower level where we're truly collaborating?
Yeah. So when I was in the private sector, I worked for an IT managed service provider, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but I was taught quite a bit of sales skills. And one of the things that they had taught me was your goal is absolutely not to sell. So my job wasn't to sell. My only goal was to make as many friends as possible. And so I took that literally. So if you're one of the partners we work with now, you can't tell me that I'm not good friends with you. I'm looking to my left up there. I see Kristen from Longview, who I consider to be a good friend no matter where she goes. I see staff here from Microsoft as well, who I have a personal relationship with. RSM, Rogers, whoever I work with, you know that I'm personally connected with you, but I've taken the effort as well to personally get to know you as an individual. Forget about you selling me something and me buying something from you. You're a human that's trying to go somewhere, and I'm trying to go somewhere as well. So once you start to have that type of relationship with people, you will do anything for your friends. And you'll never just turn away from your friends either. But there's too many of the vampire-type relationship where one organization's just sucking as much as they can out of another. We just don't want to do that here at the City of Kelowna, and I recommend you don't do that in your organizations as well. It's not about buying and selling. It's about a true partnership. You just never know when you need them. Just you see a Microsoft example there. That's because I was emailing my friends. I wasn't emailing Microsoft. I see some hands up in the back there. I see Kristen, her hands up, but I think Alexandra here as well. Nobody on this side? Nobody marks make Clayton do any work? He's getting a free pass. Oh, I bet, yeah. Make him work.
I just wanted to pick up on Parmela's comment. I love that she called all of us out for obvious reasons, a topic I'm passionate about. I consider Jazz an ally, so thank you for that. One exercise I did that I'll leave with you folks if you're looking for an actionable takeaway is all the leaders we went through, the 10 people you spend most of your time with or that you constantly go to for advice, feedback, etc. Sit down and actually write them out in both your professional life, so your professional 10 and your personal 10. And then hard as it may be, look at the characteristics of those people. I consider myself pretty committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I realize that 80% of the people I spend my time with are straight, white men in their 40s. and like, that was actually really hard for me. So I now make a conscious choice to broaden my network to people younger than me, older than me, who look very different than me. So, like, take a moment and do that exercise, and you may be surprised like I was.
That's great advice, yeah. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I know there's another question up front here. And you guys are letting Clayton off the hook on this side.
Well, Mike, oh, there we go. Julie, she's a rock star. She's got the, yeah.
Hi, Jazz. I love your presentation today because it resonates with me very, very closely when it comes to community, and having that ecosystem of support is something that I believe in truly. So with that being said, from a partner perspective, how does that stem down to your procurement processes? Because unfortunately, when public procurement is released, typically the weighting is mostly from pricing, being honest.
Yep.
So a lot of that information that is included when it comes to relationships, where it potentially provides like a framework of where the art of the possible could be from a partnership perspective, is discounted and not evaluated accordingly, I
Right.
found. That's just in my 20 years experience.
Yep.
But I just wanted to get your feedback, how that could potentially be something that could come down to the RFP process as well.
Yeah. So everybody's procurement team is different. Now, I've been fortunate twice, City of Saskatoon, City of Kelowna, very progressive procurement teams. When we do RFPs, and trust me, I try to avoid them as much as I can, but when you do RFPs, you have a choice to weigh price as much as you want as an IT leader. So if you've got an RFP and let's just say you're buying desktops, if you're going to put 80% of the weight of the score on price, you're going to get the cheapest option. And don't blame procurement. Like, it's such an easy out to blame procurement, to say, well, procurement, it made me do this or do that. It's like, no, you can have a conversation. You can be really strong-willed. You can go up the chain. And so I believe when we did our desktop one, for example, I think our price was only 20%, maybe 30% of the actual score. There was other attributes around qualifications, previous experience, public sector experience, have you done work with the city? You can change the way that your RFPs are weighed and scored. That's on you and your creativity. I would highly recommend doing that and making price the least important item on the list as well. I mean, you can make it a requirement, say your budget, and most of the partners here will meet that budget, no problem. But if you're going to sit there and you're not going to have a scoring system that is going to help you move forward as an organization and understand, or not necessarily pick a partner, but rather a vendor, that's a little bit on you as well, not communicating to your procurement departments on how you want to do something different. I think we got one. Oh, we got someone on this side. That's great. We do have one more at the top on this side as well that I can see.
Thank you, Jazz. Fantastic presentation.
Thank you,
Very
Sean.
inspirational. I thought I'd represent this side with just a comment, not so much a question, since we're talking about procurement. We at the City of Surrey, we often will put the UX side weighted greater. Another thing that a lot of municipalities do not know is that if you include a piggyback clause, then other municipalities can just leverage it wholesale. So we have been fortunate to leverage Metro Vancouver when they put a piggyback clause in there. And so I encourage municipalities to consider when they go to an RFP to include that piggyback clause. And we will increasingly start to do that so others can reach out and leverage it.
Yeah, and Sean mentioned that to me just a couple of weeks ago, actually. We were just going back and forth on Teams, and he mentioned that. And we sent a message over to procurement saying that anything that IT does, like, just remind us about the piggyback clause and see if we could do it provincially for all the municipalities here. Sean's right. That is a great way forward. We're hoping the province starts to do that with some of the things that they procure, but maybe through MISA and through the municipalities here, we can help ourselves a little bit.
Hey, Jazz.
Hi.
Good. Your sincerity and your drive for creating change, like, just really comes through. I'm wondering if you have any examples of where you've been in this position in either at different levels of leadership where you haven't had buy-in for this, and some of the kind of roadblocks, or if you have any examples of times where, like, there's kind of been a fly in the ointment and how you've overcome that to continue driving that change.
Yeah, it feels like a job interview. I had a short stint at the University of Saskatchewan, Now, universities and academia, they're their own beast, and it's not for me. I'm sure it might be for some others, but it's definitely not for me. I was brought in, so University of Saskatchewan, large university, massive research funds that come in from medical and agricultural, and every dean in those colleges believes they're the CEO of the college, even though we actually have our own CEO of the college. And so I was brought in to, believe it or not, mend the relationship and try to roll out things corporately. So the first thing I was asked to do was 365. So OneDrive, Teams, nothing about technically, because I wasn't going to roll out technically. It was around change management and getting buy-in. It was almost impossible for anybody in the School of Medicine to even want to listen to me. The dean at the School of Medicine generates something like $200 million a year in funds. And the president doesn't do that. That was a challenge to get people to understand what the power of this is forward. It was so much a challenge, I actually quit 8 months later. It wasn't going to work. They wanted to do their things their own way. This was a historical, and if anybody that's experienced academia, everybody is an entrepreneur. And everybody wants to do things their own way. And so what we did was we found partners, smaller colleges within the university that wanted to actually move forward, and we tried to amplify their voice as much as we can. It is really hard to change when nobody wants to change. One of the books out there, and just a final thought before maybe, I think this is the last question, is a book called Switch. And if you haven't read it, it's a great book. And it talks about the rider and the elephant. And the rider, someone like me, just wants to change. The elephant, in this particular case, the College of Medicine, doesn't want to change at all. How do you effectively get the rider onto the elephant and navigate that world? Change for change's sake doesn't work either, and so there is a healthy complement there. But it takes timing and it takes a lot of effort. We have one more up front.
Okay. Hi, Jez.
Hi.
You covered a lot about the partnership with your vendors and as well as the partnership within your organization. One of the challenges I'm hearing a lot from the attendees here is the partnership with the council side,
Yeah.
the CAO, the city managers, the mayor. Can you kind of build on that in terms of how you have built that to kind of build that vision together collectively?
Yeah. So I have, with members of SLT and the city manager, I've got a great relationship with them, but I'm going to go back to what I said before. I didn't go to them trying to solve problems right away. I just wanted to get to know them and to become friends. And so that right there started to break things down. One of the other things, and when you take over from a team, you can do a little bit of creative things. If you feel that you've been in the organization long enough and no one's going to listen to you, you're dead wrong. You have an ability to re-identify yourself and figure out how you can sort of move forward. One of the great things you can do is if you want to start to reconnect with your SLT teams and you've got a plan on how you want to do it, leave a little bit of capacity in your department, 10 or 20% of not doing anything. And just hear me out. When you hear those problems that they're saying that they want to do, have that 10, 20% react immediately. If you hear a problem that your city manager brings or your member of SLT brings, and then you tackle that problem 6 months later, you've lost that momentum. But if you leave a little bit of capacity for agile thinking, if you leave a little bit of capacity in your team for those emergent solutions, not emergencies on help desk tickets or anything, but those emergent solutions, you really can start to get some wins. So when we took the agile approach and we run these sprints, when someone has an idea and we really like the idea and we validated the idea that this is actually what we want to do, but within a month they can actually touch and feel the idea, you really start to get buy-in. Because now you're that responsive department that says, oh, they took that idea, they tested it out, it may or may not work, but I wasn't waiting a year and a half to see it. So leave a little bit of capacity in your departments just for those moments and really drive home, and I promise you, you will start to get momentum. That's when the budgets really start to show up. All right, I think that's it.